Good evening and welcome to Third Phase UFO Report. I am your host, Michael Roser, and in this episode, we will be delving back into the archives of sightings past in hopes that they may reveal something overlooked or simply not known about. With everyday research and critical thinking at the helm, analysis and inquiry, perhaps with time, these sightings of yesterday will mirror something significant in way of what we see in our skies today. Whether this be consistencies, overt similarities, or something more sustaining, we must never forget what we have experienced within our history, that we may break the cycle of ignorance and let comprehension and clarity be the spearhead of our existence. Buckle up, folks, and get ready to revisit some of the most fantastic UFO sightings ever captured on film.
Here we go. Eyewitness accounts from TaylorMade. We have this video, permission granted. We're sharing it with you right now.
Yeah, look it. Now they forming in a whole different way. They keep coming from the top of the sky. And they keep falling. And look it, you see one falling right there? You see that? I don't know, dog. Look it, look it. Check this out. You see them forming, and then there's another one popped out of the sky. Look at that. From the top. They just appeared out of nowhere. You see that? But watch this. It's gonna fall down. Watch. I've been recording this for like 10 minutes already. Watch one fall. See how it came out of nowhere just now? Come on now, dog. Let's be real with the situation. And watch this. You see how they moving real slow? Now they starting another pattern. Because the first pattern was like coming down. See how it coming from the top of the sky? That's not no damn parachute, dog. Like parachutes don't stop in the middle of the air like that.
I think they're like military.
Parachutes don't stop in the middle of the sky like that. What's gonna stop in the sky to stay? Not no airplane, not no helicopter.
The military ain't shut it down yet.
They probably. They almost wrecked.
Man, they probably know how they.
Look at that. Now it's 3 of them, and they all in like a little pyramid now. Watch this. It's another one gonna form too. Watch.
My first impression upon reviewing this video is that we may be indeed seeing some type of flares, the way that they seem to descend slowly towards the ground, and yet there's a strobing effect that's unfamiliar with Chinese lanterns or anything akin. If this aspect is present in any way we can define, normally something becomes luminous or the luminosity attenuates and dissipates. I raise my eyebrow at an anomaly that appears to be blinking, insinuating there may be some sort of internal power within the object itself. Now, there have been many instances in the past where we could identify an object brilliantly lighting up the sky as something dropped from a military jet or was part of a military training exercise. While this certainly could be what we're seeing in this video, the somewhat linear formation they have followed makes me wonder if something changes within the object once it reaches a certain altitude. Going one step further, we may suggest that the strobing effect seen here could be artifacted from the camera. The gentleman clearly was at the right place at the right time and did his best with the technology he had available. He does mention that he had been recording for 10 minutes, which I have to commend him for, considering most people only take a few moments to capture the anomaly before moving on with their day. It is curious to see this tight formation of 3 or 4 or 5 lights, and the nature of one to burn out and another one to arise is also interesting. Though I cannot say for certain what we may be looking at, there's a very good chance what this man captured was some sort of aeronautic exercise, and I wish we had a little bit more information in order to research this possibility further. Very cool submission. And without skipping a beat, let's check out the next sighting.
What is going on above the skies? A series of videos. Watch it right now.
是不是有 UFO 啊？是什么东西啊？这个是？怎么在跑啊？ 晓得，看你看吧，一会儿亮一节节的样。啊，它一节节亮哎。快看看看UFO也不要造谣。
I want to discuss this sighting that goes all the way back to China because I'm noticing a very interesting carouseling, strobing effect within what appears to be either lights or some type of metallic vehicle in which the setting sun's reflection is apparent. In addition, there appears to be something almost mechanical about this luminous formation. Are we just not seeing the most integral part of this object? Could the angle we're viewing this just obscure the entirety of what we're witnessing? We know the militaries have had their furious hands within the progression of technology as far back as we can recall, and in many ways there is the belief that the majority of what we see in our skies is certainly back-engineered technology. There seems to be some interesting consistencies in way of viewing these events, specifically light, simple geometry, complete silence in the way of propulsion, and in some cases it appears there's some sort of cloaking device being utilized.
Alright, we're going to be replaying the video right now so you can watch it. We're going to slow it down, get a closer look. You're watching the original video to the left and the blown up version to the right. And what is being captured in multiple spots over China confirms that there is some kind of UFO activity. 3 orbs, one creating one after another within itself. Very strange. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Blake, these are no typical flares. You could see that the city of China is lighting up. They're pulling their cameras out because they know that something strange is going over the skies. Look at the way it produces a ring-like circle. It's a circumference. They're like circles of light.
We'll also have to roll out Chinese lanterns, in my opinion. Even though it is in China, these things resemble no Chinese lanterns that I've ever seen. I want to get your guys' opinion what's going on over China, but if they are drones, again, we'll have to rule that out too. Drones don't just dissipate and disappear in mid-air. There's something going on here, some maybe interdimensional kind of UFO activity traveling in and out of existence.
If this was a conventional object or flare of some type, I would expect to see the remnant of whatever is carrying the ignition to be silhouetted against the evening sky. We cannot observe any of this within the video. These lights are simply there one moment and gone the next. With the thousands upon thousands of people that live within the city beneath this anomaly, I would expect a multitude of witnesses to have caught this event as it occurred. Are these sightings becoming so common in our everyday life that some don't feel it significant to come forward and talk about it? A very solid submission, and one I enjoyed thoroughly. Alright, let's hop into the next sighting.
Welcome back, Blake Cousins' Third Phase Moon. We have some interesting footage coming in from Westminster, California. Jumana sent her footage to me earlier, and we're looking at it right now. Take a look at this. She does a great job explaining what she's filming.
Oh man, I don't know what that is. But I saw it when I was driving. And I finally pulled over and I am max zoom on my Samsung Note 9. Here's zooming out. Okay. It's moving slowly. But I can't tell if it's an airplane. It's not an airplane because it's kind of like standing still, but it is moving. And it's metallic because it's in out of sight, like with the sun reflection. It's reflecting sunlight. Okay, here's max zoom. Oh my god, I wish I have my P900 with me. So I'm in Westminster, California, and well, it seems that it's like stationary right now. If it was an airplane, it would have been gone from the spot, and it is not. And I'm in the sunlight, so I can like barely open my eyes, but I know I have it centered in the screen of my phone. I can zoom a tiny bit more. That's max zoom right there. I don't know what that is.
This is a tough one, the object being so far away from the camera. She does a fantastic job to zoom up on whatever she's seeing, but the most distracting visual element is something that should be dismissed quite readily. This fractaling as she zooms in is clearly artifacting from the camera, and of course, what one might notice first upon reviewing this video. What is clear within this video is the reference of the building in the foreground, and therefore we can see that this object appears to be suspended in the sky. Now there's a possibility that in its distance, it may be flying towards us, but even the camera person doesn't think that this is an airplane. One thing seems certain, is that this object is more than likely spherical and possibly metallic, as it has an observable reflective surface. This still doesn't match with anything conventional that should be within our skies, and therefore, we must continue to classify it as a UFO.
All right, let's take a look at this footage captured by Jumana. We're going to replay the footage, get a little closer look at what she captured in Westminster, California. She captured this around 5 p.m. and she stated whatever this object was remained stationary in the sky for over 30 minutes. She apologizes for her hands shaking, but in my opinion, I think she did a real good job considering the distance from her to whatever this object is. She said also that it almost looked triangular, silver in color. So we're looking at the raw footage. She was kind enough to send it to my Gmail today. And she says that she loves Third Phase Moon Channel and she wants to get our opinions of what was captured over Westminster, California. Brett, what's your thoughts here? Look at the tether of this object, whatever it is.
Yeah, Blake, we never really seen anything like this. I like the display, whatever this orb is doing. It's showing technology that we've never really seen before. Look at that, how it bands out and then retracts. It seems to like shoot out orbs and then bring itself back in and make one solid orb. Very, very strange.
Yeah, the Tesla coil comes to mind. The static electricity that bounces off the Tesla coil. Is this some kind of static charge, electricity that we're looking at? Plasma, in a sense, coming off a electric plasmic orb.
Yeah, it seems very sporadic and very charged. As you can see, it kind of stretches quite far from the original object. Whatever it is, it seems to be banding out with whatever it is. Plasmic balls of electric charge or something that we just can't explain.
Also, some people might just dismiss this as some kind of balloon, but the fact is that this object, whatever it is, remains stationary in the sky, she states, over 30 minutes. And if there was some kind of wind that's blowing a tether around, the balloon would have drifted off long ago. I think whatever this is, it's remaining consistent in the sky and very stationary, and whatever the tether like blasts of electricity that's coming off of it gives me reason to think that this is some kind of static electricity that we're looking at, possibly some kind of a ball of electricity.
Now there is a possibility that this vehicle could be a helicopter, but it's remote. For the duration she observes this object, it moves very little and doesn't seem to have any real trajectory. Is it some kind of enormous balloon? Maybe, as Blake and Brent suggest, we are witnessing a suspended ball of energy, an electric orb of sorts. A half an hour is a long time for something to stay stationary in the sky without any evidence of propulsion. But because the object is so far away, it's very difficult to determine, and because of this anomalous nature of what we're seeing, we simply can't write it off as something familiar. As we walk through the shadow of the Valley of Inquiry, we contemplate the dualistic nature of this reality, to know or not know, to be aware or asleep, to believe there is more than meets the eye, or to ignore the exploration of this dimension entirely. We will remain intrepid on this journey of internal and external exploration, with an open mind to the possibilities that may not be visible within our everyday routines, though more significant than we may be ready to measure. Folks, tonight I thought I'd do something a little bit different with you. I've been holding on to something for quite some time, and for very good reason. This particular reading that I had about a year ago with Michelle Gray encompassed many aspects of my life, but at the time, a very important and significant element came up within the reading, and that was the Montauk Project. Now, you guys have all heard me speak on this subject at large. In fact, I created a documentary over the summer entitled The Montauk Enigma that fully covers Camp Hero, but there's so much to this story, so many tendrils that reach out beyond our current grasp, and of course, the project itself is not necessarily considered to be linear. So that makes it very difficult for some of us to understand what this was all about, perhaps if there are implications moving forward given what they did there or didn't do. The key whistleblowers being Al Balick, Duncan Cameron, and Preston Nichols, and of course their stories have been under scrutiny for a very long time. Now going forward, of course, we built a lot of our understanding of what may have happened with the Philadelphia experiment leading into the Montauk Project and everything sandwiched in between from those particular individuals. But there have been many others who've come forward and said, yes, I was part of this experiment, either on the victim's side or I worked within the structure itself. And again, these people didn't have affiliations with any of those three key players. Now, when I began researching the Montauk Project some 20 years ago, this was something that I didn't have an immediate connection with, and yet I felt that there was always something there. Continually, I would return to this subject, or it would pop up out of nowhere, and I would be forced to look at it again within those 20 years. It was only about 5 years ago that I became serious in trying to understand why I felt the way I did, in way of this empathy, this sorrow, this guilt, and literally closing my eyes and being able to see myself at this particular physical location, Camp Hero. On my mind was the question, why? Now, of course, I had this reading, as I mentioned, with Michelle, and it did bring some clarity to perhaps my involvement or the situation that presents itself to me when it comes to whatever happened in Camp Hero. So I'd like to, again, present this to you with that in mind, and I will speak on another narrative that I've gotten since this reading, but for the meantime, please enjoy this little segment. Let's briefly talk about Montauk very quickly. I understood what you said during the show, but I'm curious as to why it's Montauk specifically, because in my recollection, I'm not at MK Ultra, I'm not in any of these other conspiratorial projects that have alleged to happen. It's just something with Montauk that I can't, I mean, other than, I see the dimensional traveling, maybe I'm visiting, but why? What's the point behind that?
Like why it's that particular one that you're so connected to.
Yes.
Okay, you ready for this?
I think so.
Interesting. Okay, so let's see if we can put this into words. You have connection to the individuals, because this is going into the emotions, because what they're showing me is the sacral chakra, and this is going deep into the emotions, because this makes you very emotional. Do you feel deep emotion with this? Okay, there's a couple levels to this. So if we think about, we're all connected in one way or another, we're all connected to our galactic family, and that is, Eric says, whether you believe it or not, or whether anybody believes it or not, there are parts of our soul, because nothing is linear. Our lives are not happening in a linear form. They're happening where they're in, he says to think about it in a circular way. So you have a part of your soul that exists in another form, in a galactic resonance, and it is very connected to the same individuals. part of that same space as them. And he says within the Pleiades, and he's pointing over to Andromeda, Andromedan. That's one part of it. Who's the guy? There's one guy with the white hair. It was a little heavier set.
Preston Nichols?
Okay. Is this the one with the Hawaiian shirt?
Yes.
Okay. You've got soul connection to him, because I feel like he stands out for you.
He does.
More than the other ones. Like father and son, parent and child. There's Eric's just showing me some of the different levels to it. Like there's connection in other lifetime, but what Eric says is this goes so much deeper than what maybe we can understand. But he also talks about you traveling. And so while this has been existing, oh God, I don't know if I can make sense of this, but like I can, but I don't know if I can say it right. But okay. Okay, let me see if Eric can straighten me out here for a second.
Sure.
Think about, okay, do you remember traveling, or do you astral travel? Did you astral travel as a child?
Yes.
Okay. Your astral traveling was within the same dimensional space that there was things going on there because of your connection to them, because of your, and this had purpose to it. So Eric says that it's not just a, hey, I'm visiting you. There's purpose to it. And it has something to do with your, because he keeps saying the word saving or rescuing. I don't know how else to make sense of that for you. Like I could draw you diagrams, I guess, or something, but it's a multi-layered, loaded question.
I think I understand that, actually.
Eric says it's how it affects you in this lifetime. If you think about what we just talked about with the past lifetimes with the rational fear, he says, let's look at that same structure. When we talk about it being cellular, when we talk about it being ingrained and imprinted in your soul, he says, so why that particular one? Because you have connection to those souls, and time is not linear. So understand that you could astral travel back to times and spaces where you're physically focused right now that you didn't exist in.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I'll be honest with you, when I first really started exploring this subject, I felt that in some way I was there, but almost as like a spiritual observer, in a sense. Like I was there watching with others that were with me.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense, because I can picture the chair. I can see it in complete detail in my head, that entire room that they used just to say, one thing. So, okay. Good.
And there's something about your, because Eric says like saving, helper. There's something about your energy that fed the assistants, like helped them, that did something. So that's okay. Perfect. He says a lot of, when we think about energies around us, he says they're not all spirits, as in those that have crossed. We have souls that are traveling out of their body and doing things that they don't consciously understand that they're doing, that is part of their spirit. And so that's another dimension of what's happening. So he says that's a way to understand and why that happens in the first place. Well, you've got all these layers of connections, and it's part of your spiritual mission, if you want to call it that. But it's like hearing a call. It's like hearing an astral call, and yet you have no words to be able to put to it. You've just got these feelings. You've just got these flashes or these senses. And how do I figure that out? And he goes, well, the thing is you are very sensitive and you have ability. And so you're extrasensory, you're tuning into all these different things that, say, the average person doesn't understand. But you also have a soul that is here at a particular time to be able to be part of things that are beyond what our human mind could put together or understand.
Now keep in mind, discussing this in a tangible sense here in the physical is already difficult. But then you take it into the world of clairvoyance, out into the ethers, and apparently that's even more difficult to explain. So, while Michelle is essentially saying that my energy is connected to specifically Preston Nichols, I've also, in my astral travels and dreaming states, have been, or at least found myself in those same spaces or dimensions wherein things did occur within the project, or they're still occurring. Now, I've felt through certain meditation, and I've gotten this glimmer of an insight when it comes to perhaps my involvement on those levels. It does seem to resonate with some sort of rescue mission, or, going out and helping those, or rebuilding something that's been destroyed that didn't need to be destroyed or even touched. To go into detail about that would be probably pretty difficult. And I'm not against going under some sort of hypnosis. We all understand that there are certain variables that are up against us when we look at that for validation solely. But when we put all sorts of different elements together, and again, we find consistencies within these, there may be something there. We have many of these Montauk survivors, people who said that they were there and were abused and undergo these mental recalls. And next thing you know, they drum up memories of things that they only had small inklings had ever happened. And now that they have opened that door and allowed the subconscious to come through, next thing you know, they remember with the utmost clarity in certain cases what they had actually experienced. Now, just to tell you very quickly, I did have another reading with another woman after this had ensued with Michelle, and I did enjoy her interpretation to the degree that it gave me some validation that something else was happening. What she said specifically was that I was a female in this particular time period, and I actually have memory from before being involved in what we consider to be the Montauk Project. I have memory of this particular individual's life growing up and going to school and finding themselves in this lab type setting. Now, prior to her bringing this to light, it wasn't something that I had considered. In fact, some may even say perhaps it was more suggestive, and this is why you're taking it in. Now, if I didn't have those clear visions and that emotional connection to what she was saying, but then it going further, even in my own time, I would agree with you. I would say it was just something of suggestion. But that being said, I still don't know exactly what the involvement was and to what level. There's a whole story that goes behind this, wherein I was purportedly part of this on the operating side, wherein I was really more or less there as a clinician. Okay, I was in a lab setting. And although we understood a lot of things happen in those type of settings that were considered nefarious, I wasn't really privy to that until a certain point. It was told to me through this woman that at that point I did rebel, and the way that she used the verbiage, she said, your voice fell upon deaf ears. Long story short, I was subjected to the exact same trials and tribulations that the Montauk boys were, and it was not in the way of scientific experimentation, although you could say that there was that element because it was empirical. But at the same time, it was more punishment than anything, and as a result of that, I did pass on. Now, if this happened in the late 70s, 77, 78, 79, when I think most of this type of work was being done, at least at its height, then I was born in 81, that will only give me a couple 4 years, to reincarnate and get situated into this life, which I find very interesting, and that's another subject in and of itself, understanding, at least in most cases, that there are cultures that believe that at least 200 to 300 to 400 years need to pass to give you a different paradigm to come into in way of life. But again, we've heard this has been contested by experience through children remembering past lives or having memory of some other person that did exist, and we can validate that, and they have intimate details about that person's life. It's very interesting and curious to look into. Although this video that I'm going to show you in just a moment has been published for quite some time, it was my first brush with the Montauk Project in way of intuition. So, Michelle Gray and Elisa Medhus were with me on an interview with DarkHour Paranormal, and Elisa decided that she wanted to take it down this path because I did ask the question about Montauk, and of course I had a yearning, a burning to know what was going on with this. So, what you'll hear now is an interpretation from Michelle, again, to give her best reading on what she has no idea about. In fact, has no prior knowledge to this project whatsoever, even though my questions were quite specific for this particular reading. Now, the interesting thing about this is that the 3 key players, who have all passed on at this point, did come in, and I felt them incredibly heavily in this room. The entire atmosphere changed, my body language changed even on the video, and I had to breathe it out for a moment to kind of settle into whatever was in my room. Now, to describe that feeling, I would say it was heavy and electric, but it wasn't heavy in the way that I was feeling dread. It was just a presence that was here. And this was felt simultaneously with her telling me that the 3 just walked into this particular clairvoyant space. Now, I thought it was very interesting that she was able to point out Preston Nichols, again without actually knowing him, and she was spot on with how I feel about his energy in relation to mine. Now, as she goes on, we get a little bit into music and vibration, and of course, Preston is still talking to Eric and then being relayed to Michelle. And of course, we know that he, at the end of his life, was working with psychotronics, and this was a very big element in his research was music. And he also didn't care what kind of music it was. Whatever music you vibed with, that's the music you should listen to. So I thought that there were some valid points and certainly things that I could say resonate with me within her reading, which again propelled me to move forward to have a personal reading with her later on. Being said, I'm going to move on to the Montauk stuff now. Just before we get into this, for whatever reason, this is something that has fascinated me beyond an intellectual curiosity, and I don't know why, but let's see what we can get through tonight in terms of what we got here. So I mentioned 3 players, and then I'll just throw those names out again. You can do what you can with them. Preston Nichols, Al Balick, and Duncan Cameron were the 3 big names that really brought this Montauk project to light. If you're ready for me to ask the question, just let me know. Just want to make sure we're all together here.
They've got them. They're all in here. They said that they're there. I've got all 3 of them.
Yeah, you do. Whew.
You can feel it, can't you?
Oh,
Yeah.
Jesus, man.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just all walked right in, right on cue.
Yep.
Eric says they've been well informed. They knew they were on stage tonight. So they're happy to be here. They liked talking about this too, and they still do like talking about it.
Oh,
Well, I'm beyond grateful for your presence tonight, gentlemen. Man, I wish I had the chance to know you in life, but this'll do just fine. I'll start with my first question for you here. Now that you are on the other side, can you freely explain the nature of sexual energy and why it's so important in the 3rd dimensional reality that we live in, knowing that that is a very big part of the Montauk project and what they used and manipulated sexual energy for?
They're saying, and I'll speak this in a collective way that they're speaking, because I'm not too sure individually which one is speaking. They're saying that when it comes to sexual energy, there is, it's like, they said to think in terms of a climax and the intensity of it. It creates a high and quick shuttle, just like fear does, which fear was also used in this as well. And they're saying that this would create a very strong and high-pitched vibration, which could be transmuted and used.
Oh, wow. Holy shit. Pardon my language. Yeah, that's it. And so what they were doing with these boys is they were at that moment of climax, they were extracting their essence through the crown to reprogram it after they dissected it, put it together, put it back into the body.
Yes.
I don't know if they did it the same way, but initially, right?
God.
Yes.
Jesus Christ. Okay. All right. I'll move
very
on.
You're not going to say
Yeah.
that to this, Michael.
No, it's this is why I'm doing this. That's okay. This is perfect. But I could just feel them so strongly. All three of them. No, everybody is still here. Everybody's still here. Just,
Eric, why is he so connected to this?
He's connected to each one of them, life through lifetimes. We all are actually. So yeah.
I didn't know them in this lifetime, though, did I?
Not in this lifetime, but what they're saying is, do you dream, Michael? Do you have like astral travels or dreams? Because they're saying that you have connected to dimensions that are connected to this project.
Oh shit!
And
yeah.
That
Wow.
you have picked up information and brought it into the third dimension with your consciousness.
Could that be the reason I feel so close to that project without possibly even being there physically?
That's exactly right.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. Wow. Oh, I wonder. Okay. Wow. All right. Thank you. That's amazing. Wow. Okay. So exploring, again, I know we're on a time limit here. That's why I'm kind of moving forward. Otherwise, I'd stick with it here. Exploring the use of external frequencies to manipulate the mind was well established during the Montauk Project. What are some of the positive uses for this type of information? And could these frequencies be used for any type of divination?
Well, actually, they're bringing forward the idea of healing. They're talking about focus, about mind control, focus, and they're talking about channeling and bringing through information, bringing through higher dimensional frequencies, being able to separate. They're saying, okay, see if I can download this properly here. Being able to separate the ego part of the mind, and it's like flipping a switch to be able to go into different states of the mind to bring forward information. They're also connecting this to forms of healing as well. They keep showing me a light switch, like something being triggered in the mind, and like a light switch going off and being able to switch the brain.
Okay, that makes sense. And as you're telling me this, I'm seeing it in my head as you're talking about it. I can see how that would work. It's just a matter of sitting down with it now, with that vision, and seeing how I could make it practical in a sense.
Yeah.
Before we go forward, I have to ask the question, because it's going to bother the hell out of me if I don't. Why is my understanding or knowledge of the Montauk Project as a result of, this interdimensional travel a byproduct of the interdimensional travel, or is there a specific reason I know about what they did there?
Wait, say that again?
Is my knowledge about the Montauk Project, has that come about from just inadvertently astral projecting and visiting different dimensions, or did I have some sort of mission that I needed to understand that project? Was there something more intentional there?
Oh.
So this would be the second answer, the mission. Eric is just saying to you that you are an information. What would you call him then? He says a transmitter of interdimensional information. That you are able to go in between dimensions, that you are able to travel through frequency and bring information through different states of consciousness. And he says that this is something that is part of your chart, part of your life contract. And this is also something that you are going to notice on a much bigger level going forward, because now that you have this information, Eric says,
oh my God. Oh, this is huge.
This is blowing my mind.
You need to get a session with Michelle. You need to find out a lot more about yourself.
I will.
and you need to get rid of the traumas, do the portal work, and you're gonna. Okay.
Well, this is a swift kick in the ass for me, and it's much needed for whatever reason. But this is it right here.
God.
Thank you. Holy shit. Okay. Wow. What's the link between music and mind control? Because I know Preston did work in the studios and stuff at the time, and he was very aware of the connection. Is there any way that could be elaborated on a bit?
Mm-hmm. So, now I'm not sure which is who, but this one that's speaking has a Hawaiian shirt on. I'll just tell you. This is a really loud Hawaiian shirt on.
Yep.
Well,
okay.
What does that mean to you, Michael?
That's Preston Nichols. 100%.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay. So, he says, so when we, and he's actually acting upon what Tesla said and Eric about frequency and numbers. And he said that music carries frequencies, sound is frequency.
Oh, yeah, of course.
And so we carry chords. So when we think about binaural beats, when we think about hertz, they all carry a frequency. He says, is it one that makes you slow down? He says, think about music. Is the music going to make you relax? Does it make you want to jump up and dance? Does it make you want to bang your head? And that's how he's saying it. He says, what does the music want you to do? What do you feel when that music comes on? He says, well, when music gets played repetitively over and over, he says it creates a pathway, a neural pathway. And so when you relate that music, he says, relating that music to a circumstance. So let's say we're playing that music and he's actually showing me a visual from Clockwork Orange. And he's showing their eyes being opened up and music playing and watching violence. And he says, so when we play that music, I see this happening, our minds go into that state. And he says, so it's a very powerful form of mind control, one that's been present within our society for decades.
Still to this day?
Yes.
Is it come with the government? Don't answer that. No. Don't.
Wow. I mean, as a musician, I always wondered, why you get lashed onto one song and you kind of listen to it on repeat because you love the song. Maybe it's the hook there, the chorus, or maybe there's something else in there, but you're actually opening up different energetic pathways. I'm almost speechless with that one. That's amazing.
Well, and he's just saying, think about how music comes on. It brings you back to a memory. You have a wedding song. You have a song with somebody you love, somebody you lost.
Yeah,
it brings you back to that memory. It's very powerful. So it can be used for good and it can be used for evil.
Are you actually doing a bit of time traveling on some level when you listen to music and it brings you back this way? Is there an aspect of that somewhere?
He says yes.
Huh. Wow. Oh God. Okay. This is awesome. Are there projects related to Montauk projects still operating today, like sister projects? I know that there were some in the 90s, but is there anything operating under that umbrella today?
He says yes.
Great question. Yeah.
Of course.
Yes. Jesus. Okay.
We're going to have to do a part 2. Man.
Yes. 100%. This is my God, I have no words for this. It's a good thing I wrote the questions down. What happened to the people who were lost in the time tunnels during the time travel experimentation at Montauk?
Oh.
Now, I don't know how many people we're talking here, but they're showing me a handful.
Give a percent, maybe? Is that easier?
Well, this is how they're answering. I'll just say how they're answering it, which is they're showing me that some are interdimension. Some now this may be hard for some to understand, but they're showing me like another version of Earth.
Okay. Okay.
Like
Wow.
another time on Earth.
Yep.
They said that we have also experienced some of these as time travelers that come from other versions on Earth, relating this to like the Bermuda Triangle, to going through something and ending up into another location. There's also some that did not fare well, talking about spontaneous combustion. And so their bodies not being able to handle the vibration, not being able to handle the difference in vibration from one dimension to another. They're saying that this is not just like it opens and you walk through. The physical body to do interdimensional travel needs to be prepared. It needs to be prepped. So it's by chance that some are able to slip through and be able to experience on the other side of that. That's why the process of raising the frequency of a body, of a human being, is something that is a process.
As much as I understand about the Montauk Project and my possible involvement in it, there's still this resonance that I carry with me that I cannot shed. And I do hope that one day, understanding for myself that my recollection of this in this life is not necessarily for the presentation or what some might consider the entertainment value, it's really just to heal what has already been done. I need to move forward with that in mind and not get caught up in that spindle of energy that was created by so many. I do hope you enjoyed our presentation, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers. Thank you all for joining us tonight on Third Phase UFO Report. Keep your eyes to the skies, everybody. We'll see you next time.